Hello. There we go. It's a little quiet this evening, so I thought perhaps friends might enjoy a place to come and chat. Hello, No Face. Oh, hello, Maya. Hello, Blessed. You're Mary, right? Is that right? Immediately no. Maya, it's been very trolly around the chats this evening, so if anything pops in that doesn't look kosher, just give it a good bop on the head and send it on its way, will you? So, there was some sad news in our group this day, and I know I've seen a couple of you in some other chats. So, kosher face. Yeah, our friend Sin. Oh hell no. Lost her husband suddenly on Sunday. So I'm sending thoughts out to her. As some of you may know, I was a florist for many years, and I handled an awful lot of families who came straight from a funeral home or straight from a hospital and began their process of taking care of the business of handling the so many things you've got to do when a loved one dies, and just any kind of emotional state. They just run the gamut. And I learned the florist business from my mom, who did many things and then eventually settled on being a florist. And I remember one day in the shop when I was still kind of learning the trade, and I asked my mother, "What's your favorite thing to do?" Well, we were working on a wedding at the time, and it was a big wedding with many varieties of flowers, and it was the first time I'd been allowed to do bouquets. Usually the junior florists do the centerpieces and altarpieces and stuff, but the flowers that the wedding party carries are made by experienced florists, and I'd finally gotten my skills up, and I was just working on the, like the maid of honor bouquet, and I just remember they were so beautiful, and there were these lace collars that went around them and ribbons, and it's such a point in our lives where we're so hopeful, where when we're getting married. And I said, "Mom, don't you love this? Isn't this your favorite part of being a florist?" And my mother wasn't one for being, a florist. You think it's kind of a touchy-feely thing, but my mom was not effusive. She was not an emotional person, and, not warm and fuzzy. She could be really great with customers, but kind of a different story at home. And it was one of the few times where my mother really just had an emotionally open conversation with me. And she said her favorite flowers to do were funeral flowers. And I was shocked. I mean, my hands dropped and I looked at her and I said, "What?" I'd taken orders for funerals and made funeral bouquets for a long time, and I never thought of those as my favorite thing to do. So I questioned her about, "What do you mean? What?" People are sad, and it's a time of loss. And my mother said that for her it was a time that she could be of help to people. That through the questions that we ask as we talk to grieving families about their loved ones, that if you were skillful, if you were a good florist, your questions would guide the way to remembering about the things that happened during the life. The end of life it's such a shock, and the death is, it's huge, and it overwhelms you. You can't think, you can't eat, or all you can do is eat. It's hard to sleep. It's just completely shocking to the human system. And when we see a loved one die, particularly if we're with them when they go, it's a lot, and it seems very, very big in comparison to the whole of a person's life. And the next time a family came in to order their flowers, I watched my mom and I listened to her questions, and I listened to how she would ask these gentle questions. Like, what colors? And you might have children or spouses or brothers and sisters, grandchildren. And maybe one person would say, "Well, white is good for funerals." And then maybe another person would say, "Nana really loved pink. Do you remember that suit she liked to wear on Mother's Day? That shocking. It was so pink. And they would answer these questions. And like sometimes we'd ask, well, what did your loved one like to do? We'd try to figure out a floral tribute that said something about the person, said something about their life. And not those last moments, the death, not the dying part of it, but the living part of their life. And a funeral consultation usually takes at least half an hour, sometimes 45 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. And during that time, we would get to know something about the loved one. I can remember making funeral arrangements that contained things like tail feathers from a pheasant. They're long, about almost 3 feet long, and they're beautiful, beautifully colored. And the person we were remembering, he loved to hunt pheasant. I remember another one. It was for a man who had loved to play in a band. That was a thing he just spent his time doing. And we made a funeral easel that was shaped like a guitar, covered it in white flowers, and used a spray that you can use on flowers to color it this blue color that was the color of his favorite guitar. And we put those sprays of flowers up on the dais, up on the stage. We flank the casket with these bouquets of flowers. We put them all around so that the people that are there at the funeral can have something to put their eyes on and think about the life that was lived. So that was the part that was I don't know, privilege doesn't sound like quite the right word, but when we can stand up for other people in pain, and we can help ease it for them, we can help them move the remembering into connecting with the joy of having known a person while they were alive. That was good work. My mom was right. That was the good work of being a florist. So I hope that Sin will be surrounded by people who help her start that walk into remembering the life that was lived. Because that shock of the dying, it's going to be with her. And I hope that we're able as a community to surround her with as much love as we can send through this goofy old internet. One of the first orders I ever took when I first started working in a flower shop when I was in high school was a funeral arrangement. It was ordered for a young woman who had she'd been in a car accident, been on her way to her family's house on Christmas morning, and a drunk driver had run a red light. And our family doctor came into our shop, and he tried to order flowers. He tried to tell us who it was. He got very emotional, choked up, and he had to excuse himself, and he left the shop. And I was just new at taking orders, and I thought I'd done not done something right. A little while later, he came back in, and he had been her family doctor. He'd been the person who delivered her. Well, I guess her mother. But his hands were the first on her in this world. And he was shaken. It was a little bit hard for all of us. It was a lot hard for all of us that were there that day. I don't know how many weddings I've done. Frankly, I don't really remember the weddings too much. But I remember the funeral pieces. I remember those families. And I remember helping them take just a small step on that path away from the dying, away from that part of their loved one's life. I don't know why we're so shocked by it. We all know it's coming, right? I mean, it's pretty inevitable. And all the families I've worked with, I don't think I've ever sat down with a group of family members who just said, well, yeah, dying, it's part of life. That's how things go. It comes, we come, we go. No one ever feels that way about it. It is always a tearing away. Yeah, I caught that last message. That is, Maya says we have to, I think you said, because the message came up and went away before I could really read it and digest it, but I think what you said is we've got to grieve and we've got to adjust to life without our persons, whether we want to or not. And if we're lucky, we've got some friends, we've got some comfort around us while we go through it. Whoops. I like that little spray bottle, but empty it quickly. kind of rushed to get my setup going here. Didn't get things centered very well. So what was good out in the SPTV world today? Did anybody view any streams that were particularly uplifting or insightful or left you a better person for having participated? Hey, Robert James. Oh, you know, Maya. Thank you, Robert. Get some, as Chow Yun Smut is usually here shepherding us at this late night, and she is fond of telling us to sleep sweet. I always appreciate that sentiment. Yeah, Maya says it's sometimes it's hard to know what to say. It's always hard to know what to say. The number one card that we sent with funeral arrangements over the years was your our thoughts and prayers, or my thoughts and prayers are with you at this time. I mean, 99 out of 100 cards said that. And, well, maybe 95%, and then there was probably 4% that just would say my thoughts are with you. I think most people on one side or the other of that relationship are going to have a religious affiliation, or at least feel comfortable saying that they'll offer prayers, or that they know that, you know, if you're sending flowers for somebody you know to be religious, you know that they would appreciate prayers. So it's, these deaths are, there's no words in the world that will make that feel better for the person. So it really, in some ways, it doesn't really matter what you say. It just letting the person know that you're there for them. That's about the only thing you can offer, and the only thing that really matters is to be present. So, I know there are times where people go, and particularly if they've been suffering and they're in hospice and they are in a place where they feel they've lived a full life, that they were able to love the people they wanted to love, accomplish the things they wanted to accomplish, but even in those situations, it's not easy. I think even saying, I don't know what to say, I know this is awful, I know this is bad. My family tend to be a bunch of wise asses, so no, we're not the only family. I think, like, in some ways, when you're working in the funeral industry, and florists are in that industry, a little bit jaded, and amongst ourselves, we go to the dark humor side of things. We've been looking at each other, you know, out of the sides of our eyes, going, too soon? And the other person will go, oh yeah, too soon. Too funny. Too soon. Just fine. It's funny how people deal with stuff. You know, everybody's a little bit different. So, I will say I started my morning doing some art with friends. I'm gonna abruptly change the subject because I'm not sure how much more I have to say about flowers and funerals. Yeah, I got to be on a panel with a couple of wonderful arty people who are here in our community. Maya, also known as Allison Art Supply Hoarderland, and Brad of Drop Short Media. I didn't run the stream to my page because that's advanced YouTubing and I'm not there yet. But both Brad and Maya ran that stream to their pages, and you can find it there. 3 hours of art, autism. Boy, we covered a lot of topics. I was thinking about that later this afternoon, Maya, all the things we talked about. Everything from guide dogs to psychiatric medications to ways to poke Scientology in the eye, and art supply show and tell. I think we should put art supply show and tell as a regular feature on our streams. That was pretty fun. And I think we were also involved in a little informal game of how many pieces can you complete during a live stream? You were both working through stuff. And I got a whole stack of these goodies done. Look at all these bases. We're gonna be doing 3x3 pebble paintings in the next couple. I've got enough for a couple of weeks here to go. So been in a bit of a slump on getting the blanks ready, so it was nice to have a stack of those ready to go. Oh. Did I see Miss Dawn's live? I just saw the very tail end of it. Now I'm seeing that the chat doesn't automatically scroll, so I'm kind of behind on chat. Yep. Fiona, hello. Oh, Fiona, sometimes they extract some promises from us that are hard to keep. Her father asked her if she would promise to cry at his funeral. We never really know what we're going to do at a funeral. Sometimes we just sit there like we've been just struck dumb, and sometimes we cry our faces off, and sometimes we try to keep from laughing, and sometimes we, right in the middle of it, will suddenly realize that the person that we love has died. Like, we forget it. It's such a gamut. Yeah, Maya was the streaming queen today. Yeah, we're bringing the arty content. Yeah. Yeah, it can be difficult to go to funerals, especially when the person has been a bit of a challenge in real life. And I mean, for me, there are those phases of grief, but I find my way to the anger part of it pretty quickly, and it's just part of the process. But I tend not to spend much time in denial. I just go to, why did you do this? We had stuff to do. I'm angry about that. Why didn't you take better care of yourself? Or, why so soon? Why did things have to be unfair? Why now? I will say, Fiona, you should definitely go to the end of the stream that the three of us did together, because there's a little, there's a little, there's a little treasure at the end of it. Oh my gosh, Maya, I was trying so hard to not do that. We just got to the end of it, and the irresistible impulse of the thing just caught up to all three of us kind of at the same time, and I think it was a pretty great way to wrap that whole thing up. That Brad, he gets us into mischief, doesn't he? I have to think a minute and think. Let's see, he's 8 hours from me, so I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4. He might be about getting up for his Monday right about now. Come sneaking in and tell us he's making tea and yeah. So Maya, you had asked me some time ago. I guess so, Maya. So you had asked if how I got the pebbles contoured, and really that's what I'm doing now, and it's just a matter of laying in a wash and then literally kind of just working the daylights out of it, smoothing it out and coming in a little more. That's how I get that really smooth river rock feel to it. Oh, big noises. I am picking up pebbles. See if I can get it. Maybe I can get it to focus. I don't know. Maybe not. Look at this one's got. Try leaving it in there. This one's got some sparkles in it. I don't know. Little pieces of mica. Stripes and. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a nice crystal. I do love a nice crystal. Not a beauty. Chunk of amethyst. But humble pebbles. I've been picking them up since I was a kid. These pebbles are cobbles. They're just little chunks of basalt, I think, and they're flat on one side, and we mine them off the beach and then make paving cobbles out of them. Yeah, this was a chunk of amethyst crystal that I bought it as a gift for my mom, and it sat on her desk for a long time, and after she passed away, I said to one of my relatives who was making their beeline for it, I said, "Oh no, that's mine." Don't have enough water in this or something. It's just not quite right. So Fiona, you're telling me you were, I believe you left a comment saying you were gonna give the doodling and pebbles a little bit of a try. How is that going? You're decluttering. Oh my goodness. You're in Australia though, right? I'm clear over in the United States. That would probably cost a fortune. And decluttering. Dun 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 dun. I'm not sure how I feel about that. What are you divesting yourself of? You're not going to get rid of any of your arts and crafts supplies, are you? Trick is to get rid of things like vacuum cleaners and keep the crystals. No more hoovering. Yeah. Oh, golly. Well, waiting to stabilize your health. I did that for quite a while, and a few years ago, I kind of had to confront that, and sorry about that. Oh, still there? My phone had a little meltdown. I think our lighting is going to be not quite as good. My phone overheated a bit because I was using the light on the phone. So I was saying, I've had a number of health problems and chronic pain from some health conditions. After kind of going through the different medication options and just saying, that doesn't work for me. I don't really want to take narcotics and live a life on narcotics. And for me, I felt like those painkillers, all they did was change my mind a little bit. They really didn't cut down on the pain. What they did was make me think a little bit along the lines of, oh, I don't really care that I hurt, but I still hurt. So, and they had some really strong impacts on other areas of my health. So, and then I developed some heart problems that they couldn't address surgically, and so I was in kind of a constant state of pain, angina, where I felt like I was having a heart attack all the time, and they couldn't do any. They tried to fix it, and here's the thing, like, we think of heart surgery, we think of heart problems, we think, oh, that can be fixed, and not everything can be fixed. So I had to learn to live with angina every time I tried to exert myself at all, and I was really struggling to enjoy my life with that going on. So I got referred to a pain clinic, which is, it's kind of an odd thing. I don't know if we've got them all over the world, but they offer a lot of classes and training on how to learn how to manage pain, how to live with it. And their big motto was to try to build a life worth living. And it was like, some of it was just, some of it was like, your pain is like riding on a bus, and you're on the bus, and your pain is driving the bus. So you have to learn to go and take control of the bus. Your life is the bus. And I mean, of course, I'm like eye rolling and just, I'm sitting there in pain going, why am I here? And they would go through that again and again. And then all kinds of other things that were substantially more helpful than your life as a bus. But the idea they really hammered into us was that you can't have a life worth living, even with the pain, and you just have to get on with it, because your other option is to allow yourself to be trapped in your chair or your bed. And it was really just like learning a bunch of Jedi mind tricks for how to talk yourself into trying anyway. And I did try. And I did get, not the full life I had before I had these health problems, but I did get something that I could, I started to hike again. I'd been a hiker, and then if you've got a heart that's not working all that great, hiking is a little demanding. So my hikes are, they're kind of slow. They're really slow. I'll walk a few feet and I stop and I look at nature. So if I like a real slow look at nature, I'm a good hiking partner. And I got a couple people in my life. One person has an old dog that doesn't go very fast, so me and the dog are just, we stop and sniff trees. We go 50 yards and stop and take a break. And I'll tell you something, I would never have slow hiked before when I didn't have to, but I love my slow hikes now. So if you can get back out into life, just try to be in those moments when you're in them and enjoy them as best you can. You can practice. Mindfulness is basically being in the here and now, wherever you are, whenever you are. Not thinking about what might come in the future, whether that's, hopeful expectation that everything gets solved, or whether it's dread and worry about what might come. And mindfulness is also not dwelling in the past of, like, boy, I used to be able to hike this up to this waterfall in 40 minutes, and now it takes 2.5 hours. And there's beauty in every moment. Almost every moment you can find something that's it might not be a life worth living exactly in that moment, but you stack up enough of those little moments and you can get back to a place where you feel you've got a life worth living. Sure wish I could get the chat to stay up on when I'm streaming on YouTube. I might have to just upgrade to StreamYard so that we can have more steady access to the chat. My, yep, that's exactly what they were trying to say it nicely, but yeah. I've always found meditation, then the mindfulness tactics they taught. Not quite tracking that, Fiona. Did you leave out a word there? You found them helpful? More meditation more helpful than mindfulness? Yeah. Yeah, Maya, it was tough. I would have got up and left, but I was having chest pain and getting out of the chair was hard. It's funny because like now I look back on that and much more my heart is much more compromised now, and so I guess things come to us in stages and we just try to handle what's in front of us when it's there, but they're working on me. They put in a bunch of stents in the spring of this year, and I'm just trying to wring all the mileage I can out of this old carcass of mine. I mean, if they hadn't taken a flyer at trying to fix what they could, then I wouldn't be alive right now. So it's sort of bonus time. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, and the rate the pain game, which I hate, right? Because I've been through some stuff that really hurt, and so when you ask me like how's the chest pain, I'll go 4. No, you know that might be a paper cut to somebody else, and you know, to me 4 might feel like I could, I'm 10 breaths away from that being the last breath. So I think in the last year, and being autistic too, I try to be scrupulously honest about things. And you try to figure out what the other person wants to hear, and you do try to be someone who is working with what's the situation at hand. And I don't know, people kept telling me, you just don't think about it too much. Try to think of it as a binary. Just tell them, like, if you feel like you're dying, tell them it's a 9 or a 10, and then they'll do some tests and investigate and figure out what's going on. If you tell them it's a 3 or a 4 or a 6, they'll be like, okay, well, I can wait till day shift. And Nothing gets done. I will say, I spent over a year telling my cardiologist that I was not doing well, and I finally, I had a friend who was as I called him, an old white man, and I took him along to vouch for me, and he talked to the doctor, and he said, we go for a walk, and she can walk like a house and a half, and then we've got to stop for 3 minutes while she catches her breath. And I'm sitting here, and I'm watching like my doctor look at my friend, and I can see the expression on the doctor's face, and he's like got a serious expression, and he's making eye contact, and he's nodding his head, and he's like, I'm a grown ass woman. I'm in my 60s, and I got to bring a man along to vouch for me. It's ridiculous. But after doing that, the cardiologist did. He did pay attention, and he ran a test, and he was doing an angiogram where they run a little camera or something. I don't know what it is. They run a medical device up in through the arteries of your heart, and they take a look around, and it shows up on a screen how blocked everything is. And I was awake during that. I'm laying on the table, and I look over, and I see my cardiologist face, and his eyes are like, they're big. They're like, saucer eyes. And I look over at the screen, and I can see what's going on, and I'm like, I told you it wasn't working. I told you I wasn't feeling well. In the middle of the procedure, he stops it. He says, okay, we're done here. We don't have the stents. We don't have the equipment to fix you here. I'm going to need to send you up to the university hospital. So it was like it was kind of awful. And it was also kind of like, yes, you finally see it. Finally, I told you. Bastards. I'm laughing about it right afterwards. Once the anesthesia wore off, but he had a surgeon assistant with him, and they're wearing masks and stuff. And I look over, and my doctor's got like big saucer eyes, and the guy standing next to him goes, "Oh shit," and like looks at me and doesn't say anything. So. Holy cats, Maya. Yeah. Yeah, I think after this last year, I think I may finally be ready to lie to the doctors and just make a big damn deal about it. And I think when I have an intuition or I know what's going, that something's not right, and then they're like, okay, see you in 6 months. I think maybe it's just better to, run a few extra tests and just kind of see what you can do to get them to do what they need to do. Yeah, so they did that angiogram, and then I was up at the university hospital the next week. It was like the first available opening for this procedure we will get you into. And I've never had that experience in all of the time that I've been having cardiac stuff done. So, and I ended up in the hospital. I had a cardiac event in between that. It was just a week, and I think I had the angiogram on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then on Friday I had a cardiac event, and I was scheduled for the procedure to fix on the next Monday, Tuesday. So they took me by ambulance to the hospital where they were planning to do the procedure, and it's like, yeah, let's see if we can get you to hang in till then. And gave me a whole bunch of cardiac medications, and it was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get home to feed the cat. This is This is sucking. So I'll try not to, I'll try not to check out on you guys, but we're all heading to that same place. Oh, goodness sakes. How did they finally realize they'd made an error and left a surgical implement inside Maya? That's the material of nightmares right there. I gotta say, sometimes these compositions come together just very naturally, and I am struggling a bit with this one. Probably because there are a lot of pebbles. I had a lot of thoughts bouncing in my head the day I drew this one. Oh, golly. So they put it in the surgical report? Also, we lost some stuff. We searched high and low, but now we're going to have to charge the patient for replacement of equipment. That's the kicker here in the United States. They'll do something. Surgeries are, we're on the other side of it. We think, oh, they're great, they're practicing. I think it's just a wild, wild west in a surgery. It's let's try this, let's try that. I don't know. What do you think? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. And then, you think about if they leave those things in you, and then if you had something like an MRI test, it could just, if there was any metal in that, the MRI would pull it right through your body to the outside. So dangerous. Yep. Yeah, this Yeah. I got a couple of things that, if not for doctors, I might have been better off. But, I mean, I don't know. They're trying their best. Um, I could go on a whole other rant about it. My mom passed away because of something that happened to her that were medical malpractice, and then another doctor who was a good doctor who's trying to fix the damage, but it just it wasn't something he couldn't no one could have done. It was, but she went trying, and she went out with a doctor who was trying, so that's something. Yeah, so let's see. Today on SPTV. I didn't I would go back and watch Miss Dawn's feed. I was hanging out with Eric Rader. He took us up to a place in California called Big Bear that is absolutely it's about 7,000 feet elevation, a lake in the mountains. It's absolutely stunning. And I was goofing off over there and watching the sunset in this behind this beautiful mountain lake. So I think that stream usually often he does a stream on Sundays where he throws on a music list and takes us for a drive. And because of the music, YouTube usually you can get away with running the live, but when you go to do the have it go onto your tab, there's a processing that happens, and in that processing, YouTube is scanning for things like copyrighted music. So they don't let his streams get up for replay, so you kind of have to be there while it's happening. And I love he's just like, rock and roll, we're gonna go. I love that. So I really come to look forward to those, especially if we've had a stressful week around protesting and the other kinds of whatever shenanigans we get up to in this community. And Miss Sunrise Dawn's stream was running at the same time, so I was hoping hers will be available on replay. Looked like she was interviewing somebody, so nice to see that happen. Miss Sunrise Dawn has been in a lot of the same chats in a lot of the places, and she's a moderator, so she's given a lot of time and a lot of caring into the work that's done around here. Okay. Well, I'll give you a little bit of warning. We're at about 70 minutes here. I think we'll go maybe another 10. 5 or 10. Wow. So Maya, that must be, the equipment must be made out of something that's non-ferrous metal, because anything that's like steel or anything like that, the magnet can pull it through. But things like titanium, I've got a little bit of titanium left in my leg. I had a bone tumor, and they rebuilt my femur and used titanium plates and screws, and then they took out most of that. But I had I'd kind of outlived their expectations, and I wore out the titanium and broke the plate when some of the screws were left, and they took out most of the pieces. But yeah, so they said you might set off detectors at airports, but you can still have an MRI because they had used titanium rather than surgical stainless. So. Yeah, I sometimes think if we were all sitting at a big picnic table in the town square exchanging the stories, we'd form a mob and storm the hospitals to demand some explanations. This stuff happens too much. But then again, if you think about 1924 and what kind of surgeries they could not do, and how amazing the surgical things that they attempt to do are today. Like, even in our lifetimes, things like heart transplants. Just amazing. Not for everybody, though. Yeah. I've got some autoimmune things and some other things that exclude me from being able to be on the heart transplant list, including lack of social supports. Did you know that? Like, if you're a person who's single, it could mean that you might not be allowed to be on a transplant list, which I find to be a little sexist. Ugh. Oh my, I'm so sorry that happened. God, that would freak me out. I think I would have a hard time just mentally coming to terms with that. Let's see. I had a look at But First Coffee, Susie Oberholtz. She did a really great stream today too, where she was talking about kindness, and it was nice to see her back to form where she was coming from her own heart on something. I really appreciate her streams and her point of view when she's working from that place. I think it's a really special voice that she has, and it just adds a color to our rainbow around here. That's it's really special. Yeah, a lot of the times when you're writing a complaint about some sort of malpractice that happened, it gets handled by the risk management office, which are usually just a bunch of lawyers who are kind of keeping an eye on things to try to, in America, I don't know how your lawsuits are in Scandinavia, but I'm sure it's way better than America, but here in the States, because of our tort laws, everybody in malpractice, there's just lawsuits galore. So oftentimes when a patient thinks they're talking to somebody who's there to help them, the person they're talking to is actually there to assess what kind of liability the hospital is going to have and to make a settlement to keep the hospital from being sued. Because if they're sued and they lose a judgment, then that becomes public knowledge. So they would much rather settle malpractice claims privately because they can keep it quiet. Oh, is it the scheduling, Fiona, that's tripping you up there, or there's the time difference? Yeah. Yeah, I've been, it sounds like I watched quite, and I think I did. I was painting and I was watching stuff a bit today, but it felt like less than usual. Just trying to avoid things I know are gonna piss me off. Try to go to things that are gonna help me to get my attitude headed back to a productive optimism about the work we're doing. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Americans really are just leading the way on suing the snot out of everybody else, and we've come to a point now where access to healthcare is really, I think it's been impacted by the way we've allowed lawsuits to proliferate in our system. People who would have thought about going to medical school or now, part of the assessment they have to make about that career is, do I want to get sued on the regular? Do I want to have a career where I have to pay for insurance to cover me being sued? And I think that's probably keeping some people away from practicing medicine, at least in America, at least in the United States. And of course, prices are outrageous. You used to be able to see a doctor for, I don't know, under $50 for a visit, and now I don't even get to see a doctor. I see a nurse practitioner, and my office visits are over $320 a visit to, take my blood pressure and not do anything about about the 16 things I go and complain about. But yeah, $312 I go home and suck my own thumb, take an aspirin, and I don't know if we're going to have the insight that we did it to ourselves through allowing so many lawsuits. I hope so. I don't know if we can turn this ship around, but we kind of need to. Got it. Got it. Fiona, I'm with you there. On the bigger streams that I know that the YouTube processing is going to um, it's getting late. My words are getting hard to string together. But after a stream ends and it goes up and you watch it on replay in the first hours, you can't access the live chat. And for some streamers who are really interactive with their live chat, who don't put the chat up on the screen so you can read it, they just answer the questions. It's challenging to watch on replay, so I like to wait, usually within a few hours or by the next day. The YouTube processing has done whatever it does to the live chat, and it attaches it to the restream or the replay, so you can kind of you of course you can't contribute to chat, which for me that's sometimes getting me to shut up is not a bad thing, but then you can kind of see the whole interaction in its entirety instead of just one side of it. So I'll often wait until the live what do they call it, live chat replay is available on the program. Almost as good as being there. That's good. Those are good exercises in listening anyway. But something like streams like Aaron, who doesn't interact with his chat really while he's in the middle of his stream. That's great on replay. Natalie's a bit the same way. And that when she does address something in the chat, she tends to explain it pretty fully. Alrighty, guys. Thanks for spending time with me tonight. Well, and there's Brad. It's just because Brad's here because he heard me saying. Oh my goodness. I know. Maya, it's so hard, and she just, I wish that she would just, every once in a while, just go, okay, y'all, I'm just going to the bottom of the chat. If it was important, pop it up again, because she will be 7 minutes off of what we're just raucously slamming out down at the bottom of the chat, and that's a weird aspect of YouTube, isn't it? Yeah. You making some tea this morning, Brad? Getting ready to go to work? Yeah, I don't know. That is, I guess we'll find out what had happened, but from Jen made a community post saying that it was a sudden, massive heart attack. So, and Sin hasn't said anything, in chats that they were, that they were aware of things going on. So, yeah, I know, Maya. I don't think we're gonna. I think that's just how it's gonna be. That's her style there, and I don't blame her for not wanting to miss anything. We're all pretty friendly in there, and I can't blame her for wanting to see what her friends are saying. So. I guess the alternative in there would be to slow the chat down so that we can all just only type in a short little quip once a minute or something. when it gets that far behind, but I don't know about you guys, but I get really frustrated when the chat is that slow. But probably I should learn to, not type more than once a minute, but it just kind of comes in bursts sometimes, and my brain doesn't put stuff into real concise. You may have noticed this. Is Janelle concise? No. You gotta think about all those big words and roll them around in my head for a while. Oh yeah. Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying there. Exactly, Brad. Yeah, Maya says, if she read the chat out loud, it'd be easier to listen. I think so too. I think so too. But I know once in a while we get a little spicy. So I think she's a little reluctant to read out what we say, and she doesn't put a lot of censorship on the words we can use in there. So Drop Short Media says he can't cause you can't cause chaos in a slow chat. I believe I've seen you cause chaos in a slow chat. I think you just can't cause as much chaos in a slow chat. It's like it's more of a challenge than an obstacle, isn't it? All right, I think I've painted that same pebble 19 times, so. I gotta say, Brad, I had better lighting at the earlier part of the stream. I had a little, my phone overheated and it didn't want to have the light on, so. Alrighty. Fiona, you have a good day. Rest up. Take care of yourself. Thank you, as always, for coming in and spending time with us. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, Kelly's shot coming up on that probably here pretty soon. She's been recovering from some dental work, so. Okay. All right, Brad. Last call. Do you have a gift of chaos for us? Attempted chaos? Thank you, Fiona. I appreciate that. She's gonna accumulate it and spend it later. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Anybody who's enjoying a little art on the replay. I hope you'll feel encouraged to find yourself a piece of paper and a pen and doodle some shapes. Take 5 minutes and spend a little time paying attention to where that pen hits that paper. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again soon. Yeah, the YouTube thanks. Thank you, Maya. Yes, please, I appreciate it if you'll like and subscribe. Take care.